Would you like to learn how to make these beautiful stuffed cucumbers with parsley sauce? If so, stay tuned to the next episode of Hilltop Stovetop. Hello and welcome back to Hilltop Stovetop, the show where we're teaching you how to make great meals in an ordinary kitchen. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of Chinese cooking, and we're going to be doing stuffed cucumbers with parsley sauce. So come on in and join us. And so we're going to start off with some shrimp. Now these are actually more prawns, and we're going to rinse them off. I recently, for the first time, did online shopping for my groceries, and I ordered what I thought was shrimp, and I ended up with these gorgeous big prawns, which seems almost a waste to be using for this, but nonetheless there's still a few more for me to have whole for another meal. And because we're going to be making this into a stuffing, we're going to chop these up into little bits. And we've got 1/4 pound of these. And when we've got this all chopped up, then we're going to add in some ground pork and mix that in with it. To be really fine, because if it's not really fine, it won't fit into these cucumbers. So it said in the recipe to use small shrimp, and that actually would have come out much easier than this. And then we're going to add in 1/4 pound of ground pork. And by chopping it together, that mixes it all up. We've got that quite smooth. I'm sure that, yep. Okay, so now we're going to put that into a bowl. And we're going to add in some seasoning. So we have here, we've got soy sauce, and I've got a little bit of red wine here, just a couple of tablespoons. The recipe actually said dry sherry, but I didn't happen to have any dry sherry. I had sweet sherry, but I figured dry white wine or red wine was going to be a better substitute. And then I'm adding to it some really, really finely chopped celery and green onions. So a little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. And a little bit of sugar. Okay, so we want to add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. So this is going to help to thicken it. And we actually use a fair bit of cornstarch in this recipe. If you have a problem with corn, you can use potato starch or something like that. So 2 teaspoons of that, along with, make sure I've got this right, 3 tablespoons of water and 2 teaspoons of oil. we're just going to mix this up. Make sure that we have all of that cornstarch thoroughly incorporated so there's no lumps. Okay, and then we're going to add that into our meat mixture. And that will, when we cook this, that will help thicken this all together. Okay. So now we're going to get our cucumbers ready. I've already done one of them. So we cut off the ends and peel it. So when you're got a whole lot of cucumbers in your garden this summer, hopefully, this will be another way to use them up. Not that there's anything at all wrong with cucumber sandwiches. Love cucumber sandwiches. Or salads or any number of things, but this is kind of different because we're going to be cooking them. And then we slice it in half lengthwise. And I'm going to take these seeds out of that. And okay, so we're going to line up our 4 parts of our cucumber. And we're going to take this meat and shrimp mixture and distribute it. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Retreat. I missed a step. We need to take a little bit of cornstarch and sprinkle that into the cucumbers. And the reason we do this is it will help the filling stick to the cucumbers. Otherwise, as it cooks, it'll be inclined to slip away. Good thing I caught that early. Okay, so now we're going to take this meat mixture and distribute it among the 4 cucumbers. Okay, now we want to smooth this out. It's kind of gooky on the hands, there's no doubt about it. Okay, so now we're going to take these and we're going to cut them into more individual serving sizes. So for this size of cucumber, I think I'm going to do them in 4s. Okay. So now we'll take a little pause while I get my steaming equipment ready, and we'll get ready to cook these. Be right back. Okay, so we're back, and I have my pot of water boiling, which of course is what you need for steaming, and I have a steamer. Now, if I had full equipment for doing proper Chinese cooking, I would have some of those bamboo steamers so we could stack up several of them at once. I don't happen to have this, so we're making do here. So I do have this little thing which just fits over there nicely, and you'll notice that it's quite a bit shallower than the pot, and that's good because once this water gets boiling, it will actually splash up a little bit, and we just want the steam. We don't want everything else as part of that. The other thing that's kind of different with this recipe is we are going to put a bowl inside that, and we're going to put our cucumbers inside the bowl, and I'll probably have to do 2 batches of this because it's relatively small sizes. But the reason we're doing this way is because we want to catch the juice that comes off of the meat and the cucumbers as it's cooking, because that's going to form the basis for our sauce. So there we go. So we're going to just pop that in here. And right now this isn't hot, but when it's done, it will be very, very hot. So we have to be aware of that. And we've got this little handle that I'll be able to use to lift it out. So, steam can be one of those things that kind of catches you off guard a little bit when you're cooking. So we're going to put the lid on that to hold the steam in. And we're going to let these steam for 20 minutes. And then when they're done, I'll take these ones out, pour off the juice to be the start of our sauce, do the other batch for 20 minutes, and then we'll be ready to make sauce. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so our 20 minutes is up, and our little pockets are cooked well, I think. So I'm just going to take the lid off here, and so there, by steaming them, they don't turn brown. So just going to lift this out carefully, and you can tell on the overhead shot there that we have lots of juice happening here. I'm going to check that I've still got lots of water in the bottom so that we can do our second batch. And then I'm going to carefully take this bunch out of our steamer. There's one down. And then we'll put the second batch into our little basket and settle it in for its 20 minutes. And while we're doing that, we'll get out a measuring cup, because to make the sauce, we need 3/4 of a cup. Remember, this plate is going to be hot too. So we're going to pour that juice off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a piece of foil over the top of these to keep them warm-ish while we wait for the second batch to cook. Like I say, if I had had a proper Chinese bamboo steaming basket, we would have been able to do it all at once, but so we'll keep that warm. We've got just under 1/4 of a cup off of that first batch. There may be some more juice that settles out as we move forward. But what we're going to do is at the end, when we've got both batches, I'll measure it out. We need about 3/4 of a cup of liquid. So I've got to have a little bit of beef broth, or it could be vegetable broth, chicken broth, whatever you've got, to just top it up to that 3/4 of a cup to finish this off. So we'll see you in another 20 minutes. Okay, so our second 20 minutes is up. And we'll just put the first one off to the side. And there we go. Now I did have to kind of go in at the part way through and drain off some of the liquid because I didn't have this setting in there quite right, and it was threatening to overflow. So it might not look like there's a lot of liquid in there, but there is. So we're just going to take this pot off because we're done with this now, and we are ready to move on to the sauce. And what I'm going to do is to take these little goodies and put them onto a plate. That will make it easier to get the liquid off as well. Now, of course, as with any good Chinese meal, there will be, hopefully you'll have other things that you serve with this. That one I didn't have enough cornstarch in it. I remember I put the cornstarch in there so that the filling stuck to the cucumber. Apparently I didn't have enough. There we go. Now what we have here is just under half a cup. So I've got some beef broth here, and I'm just going to put enough in there to bring it up to the 3/4 mark. And then we'll get busy with our sauce. So I've got a separate little pot here, and we'll get that warming up nicely. And we're going to add in a couple of tablespoons of oil and get that warm. Because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in our parsley. And this is where it's a little different than a lot of sauces, because we're going to sear that parsley. Normally you try to have your parsley kind of on the soft side. And while I'm doing that, I should have a look at our first batch, because I bet you, oh yeah, there is a little bit more. Okay. Yep, that's cooked. Okay, so we're going to take, got a couple of tablespoons of parsley here. Ooh. I wasn't kidding when they said it would sear. Just a few seconds at that. And then we're going to add a bit of salt, about half a teaspoon of salt to that. And then we add our liquid. I'm going to bring that up to a boil. And while we're waiting for that, I have in this little container, I've got a teaspoon and a half of cornstarch and a tablespoon of water and a couple of teaspoons of sesame oil. And you'll remember from a couple of our other videos where we were talking about sesame oil, I don't remember which one it was, where sesame oil is actually used as much as a flavoring as opposed to a something that is going to be used for keeping things from sticking. Okay, so got that up to a good boil. I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of soy sauce. And then we're gradually going to stir in this cornstarch. And we're going to keep stirring this until it thickens up. And when you're using cornstarch as a thickening agent, it does need to cook for at least a minute or so. And I would say that we're about done there. It's nicely thickened. So now we take that beautiful sauce and we're going to pour that over our cucumbers. And there you go, folks. There it is, stuffed cucumbers with parsley sauce. I hope that you enjoyed today's video on how to make these lovely little delicacies, and that you'll like and subscribe to Hilltop Stovetop, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye for now.